I know exactly what night it started because I wrote the date down in my phone the next morning. Not because I thought anyone would believe me, I didn't even believe myself yet. I wrote it down because some part of my brain, some animal part buried beneath all the rational noise, already knew I was going to need a record. It was a Tuesday, October 14th, and I have not slept through a single night since. I worked the overnight shift at a distribution warehouse on the east side of Macon, Georgia, for about 3 years. The shift runs 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., but I usually clock out closer to 3 or 3:30 depending on how the trucks came in. It's not glamorous work. Scanning packages, moving pallets, watching the same fluorescent lights hum above your head until your vision goes swimmy and your feet ache in a way that doesn't fully resolve even after sleep. But it pays well enough, and I've always been a night person. The quiet suits me. The drive home is about 22 minutes depending on lights. Out of the industrial stretch near the warehouse, past the old grain mill that's been shuttered since at least the early 2000s, then through a long corridor of pine trees that lines both sides of Highway 49 for almost 8 miles before you hit the first traffic light at Macon proper. I've made that drive hundreds of times, probably close to 1,000 by now. I know every pothole, every painted median marker, every exit. I know where the deer like to graze at the tree line and which mile marker always seems to have a shoe on the guardrail. One shoe always a left, which I noticed once and then could never stop noticing. I know that road the way you know the inside of your own home in the dark. That's what makes it hard to explain what I saw that night. 'Cause I know that road. And what I saw did not belong on it. It was around 3:10 a.m. when I pulled out of the warehouse lot. The sky was that particular shade of October darkness that has no gray in it at all, just black layered on black, with stars hard and cold as tacks above the trees. The lot lights threw long yellow halos across the asphalt, and as soon as I turned onto the access road, they were behind me, and the dark swallowed everything except my headlights. There was no one else on the road. There rarely is. An occasional 18-wheeler headed toward the interstate, sometimes a sheriff's deputy cruising slowly near the county line. But that night, nothing. The radio was on low, some late-night talk station out of Atlanta, voices murmuring about something I wasn't tracking. I had the heat turned up to 68. My coffee from the break room was in the cup holder, long since cold. Everything was exactly like every other night. I'd been driving maybe 12 minutes when I saw it. I wasn't even sure I'd seen it at first. It was in my peripheral vision, on the right shoulder of the highway, just past the quarter-mile marker that I can't stop thinking about now. My headlights swept across the tree line, and for just a moment, maybe a second, maybe less, I saw a shape. Tall. Very tall. Standing at the edge of the tree line, not quite in the road, not quite in the trees. Just at the margin. Just at the seam. And the thing that bothered me, the thing that my brain kept tugging at even as I told myself it was nothing, a hunter who'd pulled over, a guy who'd broken down, whatever, was the proportions. The legs were too long. Not dramatically, not in some cartoon monster way. But wrong in that way that your body knows before your mind catches up. Like seeing a shadow fall at an angle that doesn't match the light. I passed it in less than a second. I checked my rearview mirror. The road behind me was empty. I thought, dear. Weird shadow. Trick of the lights. You're tired. You've been on your feet for 7 hours. Go home, eat something, sleep. And I did. I went home. I ate leftover pasta standing at the counter. I fed my dog Ruger, a 4-year-old black lab I'd had since he was 8 weeks old, and I watched about 20 minutes of television that I don't even remember now. Then I went to bed. It wasn't until I woke up that I realized Ruger hadn't slept in the bed with me. He always sleeps in the bed with me. Has since the day I brought him home. I woke up and the sheets were cold on his side, and I found him in the hallway outside my bedroom, lying flat against the floor with his chin on his paws, staring at the corner where the hallway meets the wall of the guest room. Just staring. Completely still. I said his name. He flicked his eyes toward me but didn't move his head. Didn't wag. Didn't get up. I figured he'd heard a squirrel or something in the walls. Old house. It happens. I got him up, brought him into the kitchen, fed him breakfast. He ate fine. Seemed normal by the time I left for my second cup of coffee. I told myself it was nothing. I was wrong. The phone call started 3 nights later. I was in bed, half asleep, when my cell phone buzzed on the nightstand. No caller ID. Just a number I didn't recognize, a 478 area code, which is local, Macon and the surrounding counties. I answered because I always worry it's something about my mother, who's in her late 60s and lives alone about 40 miles away. I said hello. Nobody spoke. Not silence exactly. There was something on the line, a kind of ambient presence, like when you're on hold and the music stops but the connection stays live. And underneath that, barely perceptible breathing. Slow. Measured. Not panicked breathing, not labored breathing. Just the steady respiration of something that was simply there, on the other end of the line, waiting. I said hello again. Asked who it was. The call disconnected. I lay there for a long time before I fell back asleep. I told myself it was a wrong number or one of those robocall systems that glitches and drops. I blocked the number in the morning and forgot about it. 3 nights later, a different number called. Same area code, different digits. Same time, 3:47 a.m. Same breathing. I started keeping a log. Over the following 2 weeks, I received 11 calls. Always between 3:40 and 3:55 in the morning. Always from a different local number. Always breathing. Never words. Never anything identifiable. Just that slow, patient sound of something on the other end that was in absolutely no hurry. I called the non-emergency police line. The officer I spoke to was polite but matter-of-fact. He suggested I install a call-blocking app, said it was probably a spoof number scam operating out of the area, told me to document any calls I received. He didn't sound concerned. I thanked him and hung up and sat at my kitchen table for a long time, staring at my phone. Ruger was in the corner of the kitchen, the one closest to the back door, watching the door with the same flat, rigid posture he'd had in the hallway that first morning. The hair along his spine was standing up. I want to be precise about the timeline here because I've gone over it so many times that it's worn grooves in me, and I need you to understand that this didn't all happen at once. It crept. That's the thing about it, it crept the way cold creeps, the way mold creeps. Slow enough that each individual moment felt deniable on its own. It was only when I started writing things down that I saw the shape of it. About a week after the call started, I heard footsteps upstairs. I need to explain my house. It's a single-story ranch. There is no upstairs. There is an attic accessible through a pull-down panel in the ceiling of the hallway, but I haven't been up there in probably 2 years, and there's nothing up there but old insulation and boxes from when I moved in. The footsteps I heard were not the creaking of the house settling. They were footsteps, deliberate, weighted, crossing from one end of the attic space to the other in a slow, steady pattern. Back and forth, like pacing. I stood in my kitchen for what felt like 15 minutes, listening. Ruger was rigid beside me, pressed against my leg so hard I could feel his heartbeat. He was trembling. I eventually convinced myself it was an animal, a raccoon maybe, or a possum that had gotten in through a soffit vent. I didn't go up and check. I can admit that. I was afraid. Not of raccoons, but of what I might see if I pulled that panel down. I've thought about that cowardice a lot since then. The next morning, in daylight, with every light in the house on, I called a pest control company. They came out 2 days later. The technician went up into the attic, spent about 20 minutes up there, came down, and told me he found no evidence of any animal presence. No droppings, no nesting material, no entry points he could identify. He charged me $90 for the inspection. That same night, the pacing started again. I bought a security camera system in late October. 4 exterior cameras, 1 in the living room, 1 in the kitchen. I set them up over a weekend and spent a couple of nights obsessively reviewing the footage, looking for anything that would explain away the sounds, the calls, the behavior of my dog. For the first week there was nothing. Me coming and going. Ruger in the backyard during the day. Leaves blowing across the porch. Normal. Then, on a Thursday night, I caught something. I almost missed it. I was reviewing footage from the previous night on fast forward. It was about 2 a.m. on the timestamp, when I noticed the backyard camera had shifted. Not dramatically, just slightly, like something had nudged the mount. I slowed the playback down. For the first 3 hours of the footage, the backyard was empty. Just the grass, the old pine tree near the back fence, the fence itself, and beyond it the darkness of the empty lot behind my property. At 2:17 a.m., something appeared at the back fence. I've watched that clip probably 60 times now. More. I've exported it, zoomed in, adjusted the contrast, sent it to 2 different people and asked them to tell me what they see. The image quality isn't great. It's a mid-range consumer camera, and it was a moonless night. But it's there. You can see it. The shape. Standing just outside the fence in the empty lot. Tall, taller than the fence by at least a head, and the fence is 6 feet. Just standing there in the darkness, perfectly still, facing the house. It stood there for 11 minutes. I timed it. Then it was gone. Not walking away, just gone. One frame it was there, the next frame it wasn't. No motion in between. The timestamp gap between those 2 frames is 1/30th of a second. The standard frame rate for that camera. It didn't leave. It was simply no longer there. I sat at my kitchen table until the sun came up that morning. Ruger was in my lap, which he hasn't done since he was a puppy. 60 pounds of dog trying to fold himself into a space that doesn't fit him, pressing his face against my collarbone. Both of us just waiting for daylight to make the world make sense again. Didn't really, but daylight helped. Daylight always helped. The nights were the problem. I went back to that stretch of Highway 49. I went in the daytime on a Sunday when I didn't work, and I drove slowly past the quarter-mile marker where I'd seen the figure that first night. I pulled over onto the shoulder and got out. There was nothing remarkable about it. Just the tree line, Georgia pines, dense and straight, their lower trunks bare, the canopy high above. A thin strip of gravel shoulder, a guardrail in rough shape, the white paint of the mile marker weathered and chipped. Beyond the trees I could just barely see the glint of what might be a structure, an outbuilding of some kind, old, half-collapsed. Maybe 100 yards into the woods. I didn't go in. I stood at the tree line and looked for a while, and the trees were quiet, and the highway behind me was ordinary, and I felt profoundly stupid. A man standing on the side of a road staring at trees because he'd had a bad few weeks. I went home. That night at 3:47 a.m. my phone rang. I answered before I fully woke up, reflex. The breathing was slower than usual. Longer, deeper inhalations. Like something savoring something. I said, "What do you want?" The breathing stopped for a moment. Just a moment. And in that moment, the quality of the silence was different. It was the silence of something listening rather than something waiting. Then the call disconnected. I didn't sleep again that night. Ruger stopped going into the guest room entirely in November. I noticed it because I keep his spare food bowls and some of his toys in there, and he started sitting in the doorway, refusing to cross the threshold. He'd whine softly, look up at me, look back into the room, and then retreat to the hallway. I moved his things out. The room stayed empty. One morning I found the window in the guest room fogged on the inside. Like someone had been breathing against the glass from inside the room. The temperature in the house was consistent. 68 degrees on the thermostat, same as always. No reason for condensation on the inside of that window. I stood in the doorway of that room for a long time. Looked at the glass. Looked at the corner near the closet, which felt dense in a way that corners don't usually feel. Like the air there had a different weight. Like something had been compressed into it. Ruger was behind me, pressed against the backs of my legs. I closed the door and didn't open it again. The scratching started 2 weeks after I found the fogged window. It began on the exterior wall of my bedroom, the one that faces the backyard. A sound at the very edge of hearing, not loud, nothing dramatic, just a dry, rhythmic scraping, like something drawing a single fingernail slowly across the siding. Back and forth, slow, patient. The same patience I heard in the breathing on the phone. The first few times I told myself it was a branch, the overgrown azalea bush on that side of the house. I went out the next day and trimmed every branch that came within 3 feet of the wall. The scratching continued. I put a camera on that side of the house, a fifth one, aimed directly at the exterior bedroom wall. Watched it carefully. For 9 nights, nothing. No shadow, no animal, no branch, no explicable source. On the 10th night at 3:22 a.m., the scratching started. And on the camera feed I watched the siding. The scratch marks appeared on the wood in real time, shallow channels dragging slowly from left to right, with nothing there to make them. I sat on my bed watching my phone where the camera app was open, and I watched those marks appear in the siding of my house, and I felt something inside me shift. Some foundational belief about the world and how it worked. It didn't break. It just shifted like a house settling wrong, and you could hear it in the structure and you knew it was never going to sit quite right again. I whispered something. I don't know why. I whispered, "Stop." The scratching stopped. That was almost worse. I called in sick to work for 3 nights in a row. I stayed at a friend's house across town, didn't tell him why, just said I had a slow water leak that needed time to dry out. He didn't ask questions. He's that kind of friend. During those 3 nights away from the house, I slept. Ruger slept. No calls, though I'd stopped answering my phone after midnight by then. No sounds, no shadows on any camera. When I checked the feeds remotely, the house looked ordinary. So, I went back on the 4th day because I couldn't stay away indefinitely. Because it's my house and I've lived there for 7 years, and some part of me was angry, genuinely angry, in a way that was almost useful. I was tired of being afraid in my own home. That was the night it tried to get in. I was asleep by 1 a.m., early for me, when Ruger woke me up. Not barking. He was standing at the foot of the bed making a sound I'd never heard from him before. A low, continuous vocalization, not quite a growl, not quite a whine. Something between the two, something that bypassed my brain and went straight to the oldest part of my nervous system. The part that knows what sounds like that mean. I sat up. The house was quiet. Then the sound started at the front door. Not knocking. Not scratching. Not the sounds I'd gotten used to. This was different. Something pressing against the door. Not rattling it, not trying the handle, just pressing. A sustained, steady force against the door, like something leaning its full weight against it from the outside. I heard the frame flex. Heard the old wood of the door, a solid core door, heavy, installed when the house was built in 1987, creak under pressure it wasn't designed to resist. I didn't move for a long time. Ruger had backed into the corner of the bedroom and stopped making any sound at all. Dogs sometimes go quiet when the threat is serious enough. That's the thing people don't know. They think dogs bark at danger. But sometimes the danger is big enough that the dog goes silent. Every prey animal knows that silence is its last tool. The pressure on the door held for several minutes. Long enough that I began to think it wasn't going to stop. Long enough that I got my phone in my hand and started to dial 911, and then stopped because what would I say? Something is leaning on my door. There's no one there, but something is leaning on my door. And then the pressure stopped. Not gradually. Immediately. Between 1 second and the next, it was over. The house was silent. I waited 30 minutes before I moved. I crept down the hallway, checked every camera on my phone. All 4 exterior views. Nothing. No figure at the door, no shadow in the yard, nothing on the driveway. I checked the back camera. The pine tree near the back fence was moving. Not the way trees move in wind. The night was perfectly still and the other trees were motionless. Just that one tree, the branches swaying slowly, like something had recently moved through them or rested against them. Or had just left them. I started researching the area near the quarter-mile marker on Highway 49 after that night. It took me a while to find much. It's not the kind of place that gets written about. But I found a local history thread on an old community forum, and buried in it was a mention of a property that had sat at the edge of those woods. A farmstead, abandoned in the 60s, reportedly the site of several deaths over a period of years. The thread didn't have much detail. The original poster had died before finishing what seemed like a longer project, but it referenced newspaper archives from the county library. I went to the library on a Wednesday. The archives confirmed the farmstead. Confirmed the deaths. I won't share the details of what I found there because some of it involves people who may still have family in the area, and because I've read enough about these things to know that specificity feeds whatever it is I've managed to attract. I'll say only this: the history of that property was not clean. It had accumulated something over the years, the way stone accumulates heat on a summer day, and whatever had been accumulating there was very, very old by the time the farmstead was abandoned. The archivist who helped me, a woman in her late 50s, the sort of calm and thorough person that only exists in libraries, asked me why I was researching it. I told her I'd seen something near there once, late at night. I didn't tell her more than that. She looked at me for a moment and then she said quietly, "People don't stop out there. Everybody who lives around here knows not to stop out there." I asked her why. She just shook her head. Went back to her files. I drove home a different way. It's been 6 weeks since the night it tried to come in. Things have changed. Not in the way you might hope. The calls come less frequently now, once or twice a week instead of nightly. The scratching has moved from the exterior wall to somewhere inside the house, though I can't identify the location exactly. It seems to come from different places on different nights. The footsteps in the attic are less frequent, though when they come, they're slower. More deliberate. Ruger will not go into the hallway after dark. He sleeps pressed against me, directly against me, and some nights he wakes up every hour on the hour and stares toward the closed bedroom door with that rigid, trembling posture I've come to dread. I've contacted 2 paranormal investigators, 1 priest, and a woman who was recommended to me by a coworker who said she'd helped his family with something similar. I'm not someone who believed in any of this. I want to be clear about that. I'm a practical person. I run a forklift for a living. I coached youth baseball for 4 years. I have a mortgage and a truck payment and a savings account, and I own the complete works of Mark Twain in hardback. I am not someone who should be calling paranormal investigators and asking for help. And yet here I am. And whatever is here with me is still here. The investigator who came out last month spent 3 hours in my house. She took readings with equipment I didn't recognize, walked through every room, spent a long time in the guest room with the door open, stood for several minutes staring at the corner where I'd felt that density in the air. Before she left, she told me one thing. She said, "You should know that whatever came home with you, it's been here before. Not in this house. It knows this place from before there was a house here. You didn't bring it here. You just reminded it you were available." She drove away. I stood on my porch in the cold for a long time after her taillights disappeared. Last Thursday night, 4 nights ago now, I woke at 3:44 a.m. without any alarm, without Ruger, without any sound I could identify. I just woke up. Like something had said my name just below the threshold of audible sound. The bedroom was dark. The house was quiet. I lay still for a while listening. And then, very softly, from the hallway on the other side of my closed bedroom door, came a sound I hadn't heard before. Not footsteps. Not scratching. Not the slow drag of something across my walls. A voice. I can't tell you what it said. The sounds weren't words, not in any language I've ever heard, but they had the cadence and the intent of speech. The way music from another room sounds like conversation even when you can't make out the lyrics. Rhythmic, purposeful, patient. It went on for almost a minute, and then it stopped. I got up, eventually, made myself open the bedroom door, made myself look down the hallway. Nothing there. Just the hallway, the dark door of the guest room at the end, the faint yellow light of the street lamp coming through the small window above the front door. But on the floor of the hallway just outside my bedroom door was a line. A series of marks in the hardwood floor, shallow, side by side, like fingernails had been dragged slowly across the wood. Starting from the corner nearest the guest room, ending precisely at the threshold of my bedroom door. On my side of the threshold. I went back to bed. I don't know why. There was nowhere else to go. I lay there in the dark with Ruger pressed against my ribs, and I stared at the ceiling and tried to think about what to do, where to go, how to make this stop. I don't have answers yet. What I know is this: something is in this house. Whether it followed me home that first night or whether it was always here, underneath the house, in the history of this land, in the thin dark space between the world I know and whatever exists parallel to it, I can't say anymore. I'm not sure the distinction matters. It's here now. I've started sleeping with the lights on. I've stopped answering my phone entirely after midnight. I haven't opened the guest room door in almost a month, and I moved a bookshelf in front of it, and even that doesn't feel like enough. There are moments, daylight moments, coffee in hand, radio on, dog in the yard, when the whole thing feels distant. Explainable, almost. A series of unfortunate coincidences, a taxed mind, a bad stretch. Grief does strange things to people, someone told me once, and stress can distort perception until the world looks like something else entirely. But then night comes, and the house changes. The air changes. And Ruger stops moving, and I stop breathing, and we both listen to whatever is in the hallway or the attic or the guest room or the walls, moving slowly, moving patiently, with all the time in the world. And I think about what the investigator said. That it knew this place. That I didn't bring it, I just reminded it I was available. I think about that on the nights when I hear the voice in the hallway. That low, rhythmic, purposeless sound that has the intent of speech without any of the mercy of words. I think about what it's saying, and to whom, and whether it's speaking to me at all or whether I'm simply present, simply available, to something that was here long before I arrived and will be here long after I'm gone. I still drive Highway 49 to get to work. I don't look at the tree line anymore. Or I try not to. Last Tuesday night, this is 4 days ago, the most recent thing, I passed the quarter-mile marker at 3:12 a.m. on my way home. Same time as always, same road, same dark sky with those cold hard stars. I wasn't going to look. I kept my eyes on the center of the road, white dashes strobing under my headlights, and I held the wheel at 10 and 2, and I thought about breakfast, and I thought about how Ruger would be happy to see me when I got home. And then, at the very edge of my peripheral vision, I saw something on the left shoulder. The opposite side from where I'd first seen it. And in the half-second I couldn't stop myself, in the half-second before I wrenched my eyes back to the road, I saw it turn. Slowly. The way you turn your head when someone calls your name. Turning toward me. I drove home fast. Checked every camera before I unlocked the front door. Nothing in the yard. Nothing at the fence. Nothing on any feed. I went inside. Ruger met me at the door, tail low, and followed me to the kitchen, and pressed against my leg while I stood at the counter and could not remember what I'd come to get. I haven't checked the guest room door since that night. The bookshelf is still there. The door is still closed. But this morning I noticed something. The bookshelf had moved. Not much. An inch, maybe inch and a half. Away from the door. Like something had pushed it. Slowly, carefully. Just enough to leave a gap. Just enough to fit something through. I have not moved it back. I'm not sure I want to know what's on the other side. If you made it to the end, thank you for watching. If something about this story felt familiar to you, if you've had experiences on empty roads at strange hours that you've never been able to explain, I'd say trust your instincts. Trust your dog. And whatever you do on those quiet night drives home, don't look at the tree line. And whatever you do, don't stop. It didn't have a face, not one that I could make out anyway, but somehow I always knew it was looking straight at me. I want to be upfront about something before I get into this. I'm not someone who believes in ghosts. I'm not someone who jumps at shadows or gets spooked by strange noises in the night. I grew up in Harlow Creek, a town of maybe 4,000 people tucked into the flat, forgettable midsection of Ohio, and if you know anything about small Midwestern towns, you know they don't exactly breed superstition. They breed pragmatism. They breed people who wake up early, work hard, go to bed, and don't ask too many questions about the dark. So when I tell you what happened to me over the course of those 3 weeks in late October, I need you to understand that I really, truly tried, to find a rational explanation for every single thing. The tall figure at the end of the road, the flickering street lights, the whispers, the messages on my phone. I tried to explain all of it away one by one the way a sensible person would. I couldn't. And now, 8 months later, I still sleep with every light in my apartment on. I still check the corners of every room before I step into it. And every single night, right around 1:15 in the morning, I wake up in a cold sweat, absolutely certain that something is standing at the foot of my bed. It never is. At least not that I can see. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. I actually, I've since transferred, the overnight shift at a fulfillment warehouse on the eastern edge of Harlow Creek. The shift ran from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., Monday through Friday, and the pay was decent enough that I could justify the hours. There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes with working nights in a small town. The world doesn't belong to you. You exist in the gaps between everyone else's days, moving through empty parking lots and dark streets like a ghost yourself, and the town you thought you knew starts to look like something foreign. Something that was never built for people like you. My car had broken down in September. Transmission. The repair estimate was more than the car was worth, so I'd been taking the Route 9 bus home every night, which ran until about 2 a.m. and dropped me about a 6-minute walk from my apartment on Caldwell Street. The bus stop was on the corner of Milner Road and 5th, just a green metal bench, a flickering light overhead, and a patch of cracked sidewalk hemmed in by a chain-link fence on one side and an empty lot on the other. It was not a pleasant place to wait at 1 in the morning, but it was familiar. It was routine. And for 2 full years, nothing happened there that I couldn't explain. Until the night of October 7th. I remember the date specifically because it was the night after my coworker Dennis threw a birthday party that I hadn't been invited to. A small, stupid thing, but the kind of small, stupid thing that sits with you when you're already tired and already alone at 1 in the morning. I was in a sour mood. I had my earbuds in, my jacket zipped up to my chin, and I was staring at the ground when I reached the stop and sat down on the bench. That's when I looked up. At the far end of Milner Road, where the street lights ended and the road bent out of sight into darkness, there was a figure standing in the road. Now, I want you to really picture this street. Milner Road at 1 a.m. on a Tuesday night in October is not a place where people stand around. There are no bars nearby. No late-night diners. The nearest house is a quarter-mile up, and the residents are all elderly retirees who are almost certainly asleep. There is no reason, none, for a person to be standing motionless in the middle of the road at that hour. But there they were. I pulled out one earbud and squinted. The figure was far enough away that I couldn't make out any detail, just a dark silhouette, narrow and tall, standing perfectly still under the last working street light before the road turned dark. I thought maybe it was a trick of shadow, some weird confluence of light and fence post, and I put my earbud back in. When the bus came, 8 minutes later, I looked up again before I boarded. The figure was still there. It hadn't moved even slightly. I got on the bus and told myself it was a person waiting for a ride, or a drunk who'd wandered out of someone's yard, or nothing at all. I told myself that, and I mostly believed it. Mostly. The second night was a Wednesday. I remember I'd had a long shift. The conveyor system had jammed twice and we'd all been in a foul mood, and by the time I reached the bus stop at 1:10 a.m., I was so tired I was practically sleepwalking. I sat down. I looked up. The figure was back. But it was closer. I felt the wrongness of it immediately before my brain had even finished processing what I was seeing. It was that deep animal instinct, the one that lives in the base of your skull and doesn't care about logic or rational explanations. Something inside me looked at that figure and simply said, no, that is not right. It was standing maybe 200 feet away now instead of the full quarter-mile from the night before. Still perfectly motionless. Still facing in my direction. And in the slightly better light, I could now make out something that hadn't registered the previous night. It was tall. Not normal person tall. Not even basketball player tall. It was tall in a way that made something misfire in my brain when I tried to measure it against the surrounding environment. It stood beneath a streetlight I'd walked past hundreds of times, whose base I could have told you was exactly at my shoulder, and it was a full head, maybe a head and a half taller than that light. I stared at it for a long moment. The streetlight above the bus stop flickered. I flinched at the sudden stutter of light, and when I looked back down the road, I had the disorienting sense that the figure had shifted, not moved exactly but shifted the way a picture looks slightly different after you've looked away and come back. I couldn't prove it had moved, but something about the angle felt different. I took out my phone and opened the camera because that's what you do. I pointed it down Milner Road and tried to get a shot. My phone screen went black. Not off, the backlight was still on. The screen just showed nothing. Pure black, like a dead pixel covering everything, and then it flickered back to the camera app and the figure was gone. I stood up from the bench. My heart was hammering. The road was empty. The bus came 4 minutes later and the driver, an older man named Curtis who I recognized from months of the same route, looked at me a little strangely as I boarded. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Thought I saw something." He nodded slowly and I thought I saw something pass across his face, something careful and deliberately neutral, before he turned back to the road and pulled away. I didn't sleep well that night. Thursday I called in sick. I told myself I just needed the rest, which was true. But I also knew, in the way that you know things you don't want to say out loud, that I didn't want to stand at that bus stop in the dark. Friday I went back. I had bills to pay. October 10th. The night I understood that something was actually genuinely wrong. I'd made it through the shift without incident. The walk to the bus stop was 12 minutes and I counted every one of them, which is something I had never done before in 2 years of that commute. The air was cold enough that my breath came out in small clouds, and the residential streets between the warehouse and Milner Road were absolutely still. No cars, no people, not even the sound of wind in the dry October trees. I turned the corner onto Milner Road and I looked immediately toward the far end, toward where I'd seen the figure the last 2 nights. Nothing. The road was empty. I actually laughed a little. Out loud, alone, at 1 a.m. on an empty street. I laughed because the relief was so immediate and so total that it needed somewhere to go. See, I told myself, it was nothing. A person, a shadow, your tired brain playing tricks on you. You scared yourself for no reason. I walked to the bus stop. I sat down on the bench. I looked up. The figure was standing 6 feet away from me on the other side of the road. I want to describe what happened inside my body in that moment, but I'm not sure I have the words for it. It wasn't quite fear, or rather, it was fear so complete that it bypassed the normal fear response and landed somewhere deeper, somewhere older. My body didn't run. It didn't scream. It just froze, absolutely and completely, the way small animals freeze when a predator is too close and running would only trigger the chase. I sat on that bench and I looked at it and I didn't move. It was tall. Up close, the wrongness of its height was almost nauseating, like looking at a building and realizing the floors are the wrong size, some deep geometric violation that your brain keeps trying to correct and can't. It wore something dark, clothing I thought, though the more I looked the less sure I was that what I was seeing was fabric. Its arms hung at its sides and they were slightly too long, the way an artist might draw a human figure if they'd only ever been told about human proportions and never actually seen one. Its head was turned toward me. I could not see a face. I don't mean it was in shadow or that the light was bad or that I was at the wrong angle. I mean that when I looked at the space where its face should have been, my eyes simply couldn't find anything to focus on. It was like trying to look directly at a blind spot. The information was missing and my brain kept trying to fill it in with something, anything, and failing. The streetlight above me flickered once, twice, 3 times. In the stuttering light and dark I thought I saw the figure move. Not toward me. Not away. Just a slight shifting of its weight, the micro-adjustment of a body that has been standing in one place for a very long time and is making itself comfortable for a longer wait. Then I heard the whisper. It was close. Closer than the figure, which was itself already far too close. It seemed to come from just behind my left ear, and it was low and continuous and I could not, no matter how hard I strained, make out a single word. It wasn't language I recognized. It might not have been language at all. It was more like the shape of language, the rhythm and cadence of words being spoken, with all the actual meaning removed. The bus pulled up. I got on it so fast I nearly tripped on the step. Curtis looked at me, really looked at me this time, long and serious, and said nothing. I took the seat directly behind him and stared out the front windshield the entire ride home and didn't look back once. The messages started that same night. I was home in bed, still fully dressed because I'd sat down on top of the covers without intending to sleep and then simply not gotten up. It was almost 3 a.m. when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text. Unknown number. 53.7.19.44.1.22.9. I stared at it. 7 numbers, separated by periods, formatted like an IP address or a sequence of some kind. I showed it to my friend Marcy the next day and she said it was probably a spam bot. I almost believed her. The next night at 3:07 a.m., another text from the same unknown number. 53.7.20.44.1.22.9. And the night after that. 53.7.21.44.1.22.9. You see it, right? The third number was changing. Incrementing by 1 every single night. A counter. Something was counting. I blocked the number. New unknown number. Same sequence, next increment. I blocked that one. Another new number. Same sequence. After the third block, I stopped trying. I started dreaming about it. The first time I was in my apartment. My actual apartment with its specific water stain on the kitchen ceiling and its particular view of the alley between buildings, and I was sitting on my couch watching television. The TV was on, but the sound was off, and in the dream I wasn't bothered by this, the way you're not bothered by things in dreams until you wake up and think about them. I turned to look at the window. The figure was standing outside it. My apartment is on the 4th floor. It was standing outside my 4th floor window on nothing, suspended in the empty air, and its featureless face was pressed close to the glass, and I could see the glass fogging from whatever passed for breath. I woke up screaming. The next dream was worse. I was in my bedroom and I woke up. In the dream I woke up, and it was standing in the corner of the room. Just standing there, the way it stood everywhere, patient and still and watching with its non-face. And I lay in my bed, paralyzed, and I watched it, and it watched me, and nothing happened, and somehow that was the most terrifying thing of all. The nothing happening, the waiting, the sense that it wasn't here to do something but simply to be present, to mark me, to say, I see you. I've always seen you. You just didn't know it yet. I started sleeping with the light on after the third dream. My neighbor knocked on my door one afternoon to ask if everything was okay, because she could hear me talking in my sleep. Loud, she said. Upset. I apologized and said I'd been under a lot of stress. She gave me the number of her therapist. I thought about calling. I didn't. Something was happening with the bus. It was subtle at first. On 2 separate nights in the second week of October, the Route 9 bus simply did not stop. It slowed. I could see it, the headlights turning the corner onto Milner Road, the bulk of it rolling toward me, and then it kept going. Didn't pull over. Didn't open the doors. Just drove past, and I stood at the stop and watched its taillights disappear down the road. The first time, I figured it was a full bus or a driver mistake or any number of mundane explanations. The second time, I was annoyed but still rational about it. The third time it happened, I got a good look at Curtis through the windshield as the bus passed. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the spot on the other side of the road. The spot where the figure usually stood. And his face, the part of it I could see in profile for the 2 seconds he passed me, was rigid with the specific kind of deliberate, forward-focused blankness that I recognize from people who are choosing very, very carefully not to look at something. He could see it too. Or at least he could see something. I tried to call the transit authority to ask about the missed stops. Got transferred twice, left on hold, eventually gave up. I tried calling the depot directly and asking to speak to Curtis. The woman who answered told me there was no driver by that name on the Route 9 night run. I told her I'd been riding this route for 2 years and I knew his name. She put me on hold for 4 minutes and came back and said she couldn't find any record of the name in their system. I stood in my kitchen after I hung up and felt the floor tilt slightly under my feet. By the 3rd week, the figure had become a constant. Every single night, without exception, it was at the stop when I arrived. Always on the opposite side of the road. Always still. Always with that terrible patient quality, like a heron standing in shallow water, unhurried, content to wait as long as necessary. And every night, when the bus came, when it came, which was less than half the time now, I boarded it with my heart hammering and I didn't look back. And every night at 3 a.m., my phone buzzed with a new number in the sequence, and I lay awake and stared at my ceiling and listened to the silence and tried to figure out what was being counted down. I went online. I searched for other reports of something similar in Harlow Creek. I found a post on a local subreddit from 3 years ago, since deleted but cached, from someone describing a tall figure on the east side of town that didn't move right. The post had 6 comments. 2 were people making jokes. 2 were people saying they'd seen something similar near the grain elevator on Route 11. The last 2 were just the letter X posted by separate accounts, created and last used on the same day the post went up. I drove out to the grain elevator on a Saturday afternoon. In daylight, with my borrowed car and my rational daytime brain, I felt slightly ridiculous. But I looked around. And on the concrete base of the elevator's outer wall, half hidden behind a rusted piece of equipment, I found what looked like a series of measurements scratched into the surface. I didn't have a tape measure, but I estimated them at somewhere between 6.5 and 8 feet. Each one was dated. The scratches went back over 20 years. I got back in the car and drove home and did not get out again until Monday morning, October 28th. I know the date because I've relived it more times than I can count, in my waking hours and in my dreams, turning it over and examining it the way you examine a stone you almost tripped on, trying to understand the shape of it, trying to see if there was any way you could have avoided it. The shift ended at 6, but we'd had a system failure at 4:30 and I'd been asked to stay to help with the reset. By the time I was out of the building, it was 8:15. I'd missed the last 2 buses. The overnight cab in Harlow Creek was technically available until 10, but when I called, I got a voicemail. I tried the next number in my phone. No answer. I called Marcy, but she didn't have a car and her roommate didn't pick up. I was going to have to walk. The route home from the warehouse to Caldwell Street on foot, bypassing Milner Road entirely, going the long way down Prescott and cutting through the industrial park, was about 40 minutes. I'd walked it once before in October of the previous year, when my bus card had stopped working. It was fine. It was safe. Harlow Creek is a small town and nothing bad happens in Harlow Creek. I told myself all of this as I put on my jacket and started walking. I told myself all of this for about 12 minutes, right up until I turned onto Prescott Street and saw the figure standing at the far end of the block. I stopped walking. It had never been anywhere but Milner Road in my dreams. It had never crossed to this side of town. And yet here it was, a quarter mile away in the orange sodium glow of the single working street light on Prescott Street, standing as still as it always stood, that terrible patient stillness, and it was facing me. I turned around. I would take the long way. I would go around the industrial park on the other side. I would add 20 minutes to my walk if I had to. I walked for 3 blocks. The figure was ahead of me again. I stopped, looked back over my shoulder. The street behind me was empty. I looked forward. It was there, same distance, same stillness, same absent face turned in my direction. I understood then, with a clarity that felt almost like calm, that I was not going to be able to go around it. That it had been in front of me all this time, not waiting at a bus stop, waiting for me specifically to understand what it was. I started walking again because there was nothing else to do. And it was there, always ahead of me, always the same distance, until I turned onto Caldwell Street and it was standing directly in front of my building. I stopped at the edge of the block and I looked at it and it looked back at me with its non-face, and I felt the whisper start again behind my ear, that formless, almost language, the shape of words without their meaning, and I thought, just walk past it. Just walk to your door. You've seen it every night for 3 weeks and it hasn't touched you. Just walk past it. So I did. I walked the length of my block with it standing there and I didn't look at it directly, keeping it in my peripheral vision the whole time, and I felt the air change as I got closer, colder, noticeably colder, like stepping in front of a walk-in freezer, and the whisper got louder without getting clearer, and the street light above my building door flickered once and died entirely. I got my key out in the dark and I got the door open and I got inside. I leaned against the door and shook for about 5 minutes. Then my phone buzzed. The number that night wasn't a sequence. It was my name. I called the transit authority the next morning and transferred to a daytime warehouse shift. I told my landlord I needed to break my lease and I moved to an apartment across town within 2 weeks. I didn't tell anyone the real reason why. But here's the thing I keep coming back to, the thing that makes all of it worse in retrospect, the thing that turns my stomach every time I think about it in the right light. A few weeks after I moved, I was talking to Denny, an old-timer at the warehouse who'd worked nights for 15 years. I mentioned casually that I'd sometimes seen strange things at the Milner Road bus stop. A figure, I said, a tall figure standing in the road at night. I made it sound like nothing. Like I was just making conversation. Denny set down his coffee and looked at me for a long moment. Milner Road, he said. Yeah. Nobody sees anything at Milner Road, he said. Everybody who works the shift takes that stop. Nobody sees anything. I told him I'd definitely seen something. He shook his head slowly. Not like he didn't believe me. More like he was sorry. It's not about the stop, he said. It never was. He picked his coffee back up and didn't say anything else, and I didn't ask because I already understood what he meant. Because I'd already worked out the thing that had been sitting at the back of my mind for weeks, the thing I'd been circling around without letting myself land on it. The figure wasn't at the bus stop because it lived there or haunted there, or was tied to that particular corner of Milner Road. It was at the bus stop because I was at the bus stop. It was on Prescott Street because I was on Prescott Street. It was outside my window because I was inside my apartment. And the counter in those texts, the number incrementing by 1 every single night, wasn't counting down to something. It was counting how many times it had found me. I've changed my route to work 4 times since October. Different streets, different times, different approaches. And most nights nothing happens. Most nights I make it home and the streets are empty and I unlock my door and I breathe out and I tell myself it's over. But some nights, not every night but some, I catch something in my peripheral vision. Something tall. Something still. Just at the edge of where the light ends and the dark begins. And my phone buzzes. And the number is always 1 higher than the night before. It's been 243 nights since October 7th. It's been 243 nights since I first looked up and saw it standing in the road. And whatever it is, whatever it wants, it has been finding me every single one of them. I just didn't always know it was there. The last thing I remember before everything went wrong is the fuel gauge needle touching E, and thinking that was the worst thing that could happen to me that night. I was wrong. I was so wrong. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm still here to tell you this. Barely. And I need you to understand something before I begin. I've spent the last 3 months trying to convince myself that what happened was a dream, a hallucination, some stress-induced breakdown brought on by too many late nights and too much caffeine. I've tried really hard to believe that. But then I look at the photograph, and I know it was real. It was a Tuesday in late October, one of those nights that feels wrong before anything actually goes wrong. You know the feeling. The air has a particular weight to it. The darkness seems thicker than usual, like it's pressing against your windshield instead of just sitting on the other side of it. The radio keeps losing signal at the worst possible moments, cutting out mid-sentence in a way that makes you feel like something is deliberately interrupting it. I'd been working late at the distribution warehouse outside Mill Haven, a small town in central Tennessee that most people have never heard of and if they're lucky never will. My shift had run 3 hours over because 2 guys called in sick and the floor manager was in one of his moods, the kind where he stands behind you and breathes too loudly and makes a point of checking his watch every 15 minutes. By the time I clocked out and got to my truck, it was 20 past midnight. The drive home normally took 45 minutes on Route 9. 45 minutes of flat highway flanked by dying cornfields and the occasional farmhouse set so far back from the road that their lights looked like distant stars. I knew the route well enough to drive it half asleep, which if I'm being honest, I basically was. I'd gone maybe 20 miles when I noticed the gas gauge. Empty. I tapped it with my finger the way you do when you're hoping the needle is just stuck, just lying to you. It wasn't. The little orange warning light confirmed it, glowing with the particular smugness of a machine that knows it has you beat. I pulled out my phone to find the nearest gas station. No signal. Of course. That stretch of Route 9 was notorious for dead zones. There were places out there where your phone became nothing more than an expensive flashlight, and I happened to be sitting right in the middle of one of them. I dropped the phone on the passenger seat and tried to remember the last gas station I'd passed. There was one back in Mill Haven, but that was 20 miles behind me. Ahead, I seemed to recall there being something, a Shell maybe or a BP, somewhere around the Cutters Creek Junction, maybe 5 or 6 miles up the road. I decided to push forward and hope for the best. The truck started that subtle hiccuping that fuel-starved engines do when they're getting close to the end. A little stutter in the rhythm of the engine, like a heartbeat skipping. Every time it did it, my stomach clenched. I leaned forward over the wheel as if that would somehow help, as if my posture could coax more miles out of fumes. And then I saw it. Off to the right side of the road, maybe a quarter mile ahead, there was a glow. The pale, bluish-white glow of fluorescent lights cutting through the dark. As I got closer, I could make out the shape of a gas station. A small one, the old-fashioned kind with a flat canopy over 2 rows of pumps and a little convenience store attached. There was no brand signage I could recognize from the road. No Shell logo, no BP Sunflower, no Chevron V. Just a white sign with red lettering that read, Gas, open 24 hours. Simple. Unbranded. Alone in the dark. I pulled in. The gravel lot crunched under my tires as I rolled up to the nearest pump. I put the truck in park and sat there for a second, just breathing, relieved in the way you only get when something stressful ends and you realize your body had been holding tension you didn't even know was there. Then I started noticing things. Not alarming things, not yet. Just things. Details that registered somewhere in the back of my mind without demanding immediate attention. The fluorescent lights under the canopy were flickering. Not in a steady, rhythmic way, not the reliable hum and flash of a bulb that's just getting old. These were flickering in an irregular, almost stuttering pattern. On for 3 seconds, then a rapid series of blinks, then on again for 5 seconds, then more stuttering. Watching them for too long made my eyes ache. There were cars parked at the other pump island. 2 of them, a dark green minivan and an older model silver sedan with a cracked rear windshield held together with what looked like packing tape. Both cars had their engines off. Both had their headlights off. Neither one had anyone inside. I glanced at the store. Through the large front windows I could see the interior, the aisles of chips and candy, the refrigerator cases along the back wall glowing with their own cold blue light, the counter where the register sat. But there was no one behind the counter. No cashier, no attendant, nobody. I checked the time on the dash. 12:47 a.m. A 24-hour gas station at 12:47 in the morning with no staff visible and 2 empty cars at the pumps. But not impossible. Maybe the attendant was in the back. Maybe the people from those cars were in the bathroom. There are 100 reasonable explanations for a thing like that, and at 12:47 a.m. when you're tired and running on fumes, literal fumes, your brain reaches for the reasonable explanations first. That's just human nature. We are, at our core, optimists about ordinary things. I got out of the truck. The air outside was cold and smelled of something I couldn't immediately identify. Not the usual gas station smell, petroleum and exhaust and the ghost of someone's spilled coffee. This was something else underneath all that. Something organic. Wet and heavy, like standing water in a place where standing water shouldn't be. Like a pond that's been still for too long. I shook it off and reached for the pump. The screen on the pump was dark. Not the standby dark of a screen that's gone to sleep. The total, absolute dark of something that has no power. I pressed the button to wake it up. Nothing. I pressed it again. Nothing. I tried the other buttons along the side. Nothing. I walked around to the other pump island, the one with the minivan and the sedan. Those pump screens were dark too. I stood there in the flickering light, looking at those 2 empty cars, and I felt the first real tingle of unease. Not fear, not yet, but that particular awareness that prickles at the base of your skull when something is slightly, subtly wrong in a way you can't fully articulate. I decided to go inside and see if someone could help. The door to the convenience store was one of those old manual ones. Not automatic, just a standard glass door with a metal push bar. A small bell hung above it on a coil spring, the kind that jingles when you enter. I pushed the door open, the bell jingled, and I stepped inside. The smell hit me first. Stronger inside. That wet, organic, standing water smell, but now with something else underneath it. Something faintly sweet in a way that made the back of my throat tighten. Not pleasant sweet like candy. Wrong sweet. The kind of sweetness that nature uses as a warning, the way certain poisonous flowers smell almost good before they make you sick. I stood just inside the door and looked around. The store was small. 4 narrow aisles running front to back, shelved with the usual gas station inventory, chips, crackers, candy bars, motor oil, phone chargers and blister packs, lottery tickets in a spinning display by the counter. The refrigerator cases lined the entire back wall, humming with the quiet persistence of refrigerators everywhere. Everything looked normal, except for the dust. There was a fine gray layer of dust on everything. On the chip bags. On the candy bar display. On the counter, on the register. Not the light dust of a place that hadn't been cleaned in a week or 2. Heavy dust. The kind that accumulates over months. The kind that settles on things that haven't been touched in a very long time. I walked up to the counter. A little service bell sat on it, the kind you tap with your palm. I tapped it. The sharp little ding rang out and dissolved into the silence of the store. Nobody came. Hello. My voice sounded strange in there. Flat. Like the room was absorbing it rather than letting it bounce. Anyone here? Nothing. I waited. I looked at the door to the back room, which was slightly ajar, leaking a dim, sickly yellow light from whatever was on the other side. I thought about going to knock on it. I thought about calling out again. And then the phone rang. It was an old landline phone, the kind with actual physical buttons, sitting on a shelf behind the counter. It rang once, a sharp, loud, mechanical ring that made me jump, and then stopped. I stood there, heart ticking a little faster than before. Then it rang again. What? Then silence. Then again. What? Silence. Once every 15 seconds or so, ringing once, then stopping. Not twice, not 3 times, just once, like someone was calling and hanging up before the second ring, over and over and over. I stared at it for a while. Then I looked away. That's when I noticed the security cameras. There were 2 of them, small black domes mounted in the upper corners of the store, the kind that housed tiny rotating cameras. I'd noticed them vaguely when I walked in, just as background furniture, The way you notice security cameras everywhere without really registering them. But now, watching, I realized one of them was moving. Slowly. Almost imperceptibly. Rotating in my direction. I shifted to my left, stepping around the end of the counter. The camera followed. Not quickly. Not jerkily. Just a smooth, slow, deliberate turn, tracking my movement the way a head turns to follow something that has caught its attention. I went completely still. The camera stopped. I took a step to the right. The camera turned right. My mouth had gone very dry. I looked at the second camera in the opposite corner. Was moving too. Had been moving, I realized. I just hadn't noticed because I'd been watching the first one. Both cameras were trained on me, rotating in perfect synchrony, following me with the quiet mechanical patience of things that have no reason to hurry. Because where was I going to go? I told myself there was a logical explanation. Remote monitoring system. Some overnight security service watching the feed from somewhere. A bored operator rotating the cameras out of habit or curiosity. Yes, that was it. That was the reasonable explanation. I cleared my throat and addressed the camera directly. Hey, I'm not trying to cause any trouble. I just need some gas. The pumps outside aren't working. Is there anyone I can talk to? The camera stared at me. The phone rang once, then stopped. I turned away from the counter and walked down the nearest aisle, heading for the back of the store to knock on the back room door. The aisle was snack foods, chips and pretzels and those little white powdered donuts in cellophane bags. I passed them without looking at them, my eyes on the back room door, the thin line of yellow light bleeding from beneath it. I was halfway down the aisle when I heard the whisper. It came from the next aisle over. Quiet, so quiet that for a moment I thought it was just the ventilation system, just some whistle of air through a duct. But then it came again and there was no mistaking it for anything mechanical. It was a voice. Breathy and low and deliberate. Words I couldn't make out. Not quite. The consonants were wrong, or the syllables were arranged in an order that didn't match any language I recognized. But the quality of it, the rise and fall, the cadence, was unmistakably human. Unmistakably a voice. I stopped walking. Hello. I kept my voice low, matching the register of the whisper without meaning to. Is someone there? The whisper stopped. I took 2 steps to the end of the aisle and looked around the corner into the adjacent row. Empty. The aisle was completely, utterly empty. Motor oil, windshield wiper fluid, funnels. Dust on everything. Nobody. I stood there at the corner for a long moment, listening hard. The refrigerators hummed. The phone rang once and stopped. The fluorescent lights buzzed and stuttered. No whisper. I turned back toward the rear of the store, and the back room door clicked. Not opening, not closing. Just clicking like a latch engaging. Like something on the other side had just pushed up against it. The thin line of yellow light under the door changed. For just a moment, a shadow crossed it. The irregular, blotted shadow of something standing just on the other side. Something that was not moving. Something that was simply standing there. Standing there and not opening the door. I backed up 2 steps. Then 3. I kept my eyes on that door, on that shadow that didn't move, didn't shift, just stood there with the silent patience of something that knew it didn't need to hurry. My back hit the front door. I hadn't realized I'd crossed the whole length of the store. I'd been so focused on the back room door that my feet had just been moving on their own, and now I was at the entrance, the door pressing against my spine, and I thought, I'll just leave. I'll just go. I'll walk to the next gas station, I'll walk the whole way home if I have to, it doesn't matter, I just need to leave this place right now. I reached behind me for the door handle. The door didn't open. I pushed. Nothing. I grabbed the push bar with both hands and threw my weight against it. It didn't budge. Not locked. I could see it wasn't locked, the latch wasn't engaged, the door simply wasn't moving, as if the air pressure on the other side had equalized in some way that made the whole thing inert, like trying to push against a sealed vacuum. I shoved it again. And again. Nothing. I spun around and tried pulling. Nothing. The phone rang once. I was breathing hard now. Okay, window. There was a large front window. I could break it if I had to. I took 2 steps toward it, already looking for something heavy to throw, and then I stopped. Because of the reflection. The large front window of the store functioned as a partial mirror in the dark. With the interior lit and the outside black, you could see yourself in it, a ghostly overlay of your image against the darkness beyond. I could see myself standing there. Jeans, work jacket, hair slightly disheveled from the long shift. I raised my right hand. In the window, the reflection raised its left hand. Which is correct. That's how reflections work, mirror image. But then I held my hand still. And the reflection kept moving. Slowly. Deliberately. The reflected hand continued to rise above the level where I'd stopped mine, lifting higher, and then the reflected arm turned, the hand rotating in a gesture I was absolutely not making, a slow, fluid movement that had no correspondence with anything my body was doing. I was standing completely still. My reflection was not. In the glass, the image of me tilted its head. Then it smiled. I cannot fully describe what was wrong with that smile. It used the correct muscles, arranged itself in the correct geometry of a smile, but there was something in the degree of it, in the particular quality of the expression, that was not right. The way a word can look wrong when you've stared at it too long, the way something that is technically accurate can still be profoundly, viscerally incorrect. I stumbled backward, away from the window, and I heard something in the far aisle. Footsteps. Slow, measured footsteps, moving from the back of the store toward the front. Unhurried. The sound of shoes on linoleum, regular and deliberate, getting closer one step at a time. I pressed myself against the shelving unit at the end of aisle 2, out of the direct sight line of the adjacent aisle. I held my breath. The footsteps kept coming, getting louder, getting closer, and then, they were right there, right at the end of the aisle, 6 feet from where I was standing, and I could see the edge of the aisle from my position. I could see the bottom half of the row of shelves and the strip of floor at the far end, and I watched that strip of floor as the footsteps reached it. Nothing. No feet. No body. No one. The footsteps were there and then they weren't, ending at the mouth of the aisle as if whoever was making them had simply stopped walking and ceased to exist at the same moment. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. Then from the back room, from behind that door with its yellow light and its unmoving shadow, a voice said my name. My full name. First and last. Quietly. Almost gently. In a tone that was almost, not quite but almost, familiar. Like someone doing an impression of a voice I knew, someone who had studied the recordings carefully but had gotten the warmth slightly wrong, had gotten the humanness slightly wrong, had assembled all the correct components of a familiar voice without understanding what made it familiar in the first place. My name, spoken by something that knew it. I don't know how I moved. I don't remember making the decision. I was across the store in an instant, back at the front door, throwing myself against it with everything I had, and this time it gave, swinging outward with a resistance like pushing through heavy water, like the air itself was reluctant to let me go, but giving, finally giving, and I was through it and out into the cold night and running for my truck. I was in the driver's seat with the door locked before I'd finished drawing a breath. Keys. My hands were shaking badly enough that it took me 3 tries to get the key in the ignition. I started the engine, it turned over, stuttered, and my heart nearly stopped, and then it caught, roaring to life, and I threw it in reverse and hit the gas and got out of that lot and onto Route 9 and I drove. I drove on fumes. I drove on nothing. I have no mechanical explanation for how that truck kept running for the next 12 miles, for how it got me to the next gas station. A brightly lit, staffed, completely normal pilot travel center with 3 other customers and a bored teenager behind the counter scrolling through his phone. I pulled in and sat there in the parking lot for 5 minutes before I trusted my legs enough to get out. My hands were still shaking when I paid for the gas. I made it home. I locked every door and every window. I sat on my couch with all the lights on until sunrise, unable to sleep, unable to think about anything except those cameras tracking me, that reflection moving on its own, that voice saying my name in that almost right tone. In the days that followed, I told myself I was done with it. It happened. It was over. I wasn't going back to Route 9, not ever, and whatever was in that gas station, whatever is in that gas station, it had let me go and that was enough. But there were things I hadn't accounted for. 3 nights after, I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of my own name, spoken quietly, almost gently, from the hallway outside my bedroom. I lay there for a full minute without breathing, listening, and I heard nothing else. No footsteps, no movement, no doors or windows disturbed. I got up and checked every room. Nothing. All locked up, all undisturbed. I told myself it was a dream. Hypnagogia. The brain playing tricks in the gap between sleep and waking. I went back to bed. 2 nights after that, I was brushing my teeth at the bathroom mirror when my reflection blinked. I hadn't. One slow, deliberate blink, while my own eyes were open and staring. I stood there for a long time, staring at my own face, and my reflection stared back, and for the rest of that night I was not entirely sure which one of us was which. And then there's the photograph. I didn't even remember taking it. Sometime during those panicked minutes in the gas station store, my phone had been in my hand, I'd been trying to get a signal to call someone, and somewhere in the chaos I must have hit the camera button. I found the photo 3 days later when I was scrolling through my gallery. It's taken from inside the store, from roughly the middle of the aisle, facing toward the front. You can see the front window in the shot. You can see the door. You can see the dark parking lot beyond the glass, the flickering canopy lights casting their unsteady glow over the pump islands. You can see the cars. The dark green minivan and the silver sedan, parked exactly where I'd seen them. And if you look closely, and God help me, I have looked closely, I have looked at this photograph at 2 in the morning with the screen brightness turned all the way up and my face 6 inches from the glass. If you look closely at the cars, you can see that they're not empty. They never were. There are figures in both of them. Sitting in the driver's seats, sitting completely still, facing forward through the windshields with the empty attentiveness of people who have been sitting there for a very, very long time. No features I can make out, just shapes, the shapes of people in dark cars, motionless under the stuttering fluorescent light. Waiting. For what? I don't know. To leave, maybe. To go wherever it is people go when something in a gas station on a dark stretch of Tennessee highway decides it's done with them. Or maybe they're waiting for something else entirely. Maybe they're waiting for the thing in that gas station to finish with its newest acquisition. Its newest almost catch. Maybe they're waiting for me to come back. I haven't driven Route 9 since October. I take the long way now, an extra 35 minutes each way, every single day, adding over 4 hours a week to my commute, and I don't care. I don't care even a little bit. I keep my gas tank full. Always. I fill it before it drops below half. I will never, not ever, let that needle get close to E again. I will never again be in a situation where I have no choice, where the math of fuel and distance makes one specific stop feel inevitable. Because that's what I've come to understand about what happened. It wasn't random. That gas station didn't get me by accident. It got me because I had no options, because the needle was at E and the phone had no signal and the darkness ahead was long and there was that pale fluorescent glow off to the right like a lighthouse, like a hand extended in welcome, like exactly what I needed appearing at exactly the right moment. That's how it works, I think. You don't end up there by coincidence. You end up there because you're alone and it's late and you're desperate and it offers exactly what you need. And then the pumps don't work and the door doesn't open and something in the back room knows your name and the cars outside are full of people who stopped here once and never quite left. Some of them maybe got away like I did. Most of them I think didn't. Here's the last thing I'll tell you. Last week I was in my kitchen making coffee at around 7 a.m. and my phone buzzed on the counter. An unknown number. Local area code, but a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring through to voicemail. There was no message. Just silence. 11 seconds of silence and then a click. That night it called again. Once ring. Then nothing. The third night it called 3 times over the course of 2 hours, always once, always hanging up before I could answer. I stopped answering after the first time. On the 4th night I picked up. There was no voice. No whisper. No sound at all except for a faint background hum, the low monotonous hum of fluorescent lights. Flickering fluorescent lights. I could hear them stuttering in the silence. On for a moment, then buzzing, then on again. I hung up. The phone hasn't rung since. That was 4 days ago. I've been sleeping with the lights on. I've been avoiding mirrors. I've been checking the locks at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, walking the perimeter of my house, making sure everything is sealed. I tell myself I'm being paranoid. I tell myself that whatever is in that gas station is tethered to that place, that it can't follow someone home, that there are rules to these things, boundaries, limits. But I also used to believe that a gas station open at midnight with no staff and 2 empty cars and flickering lights was just a gas station that had fallen on hard times. I used to believe a lot of things. Don't stop for gas at night. Don't stop anywhere that glows at you from the darkness like it's been waiting. If the pumps don't work and the lights are stuttering and there are cars with nobody in them, get back in your vehicle and drive until the engine dies and then get out and walk. Whatever you do, don't go inside. And if something in the back room knows your name, don't answer.